Good afternoon, friends. At the outset, I would first like to thank the organizers of this event for having invited me today to address such an august gathering of chartered accountants. I'll use both a mix of Hindi and English. I think that'll be better for us to communicate to each other. देखिए, एक तो मेरा काम आज बहुत मुश्किल हो गया बिकॉज दो कारण है. पहले तो आपने दो एमिनेंट स्पीकर मिस्टर नवनीत मुनोद और मिस्टर नीलेश शाह उनको ऑलरेडी सुना है. तो उन्होंने आई एम श्योर आई वॉज नॉट हियर ड्यूरिंग देयर टॉक बट आई एम श्योर दे मस्ट हैव कवर्ड एवरीथिंग विच यू वांटेड टू नो अबाउट कैपिटल मार्केट्स और स्टॉक मार्केट्स. तो एक तो आई डोंट थिंक और लेट मी try very hard to get something new to you which will keep you occupied. And second, lunch की टाइम हो गई है, ऑलरेडी 1:15 बज गए हैं. अब आपको रोक के रखना it's really difficult for any speaker. Anyways, today I've been asked to talk about the transition of India's economy from a $3.7 trillion today to $5 trillion economy. To start with, I'll quote a very famous French poet and novelist. Listen to my words carefully. He said, "No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come." I'll repeat it again. No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. And believe me, India's time has come. I'm sure everybody out here would agree to that it's India's time today. And before I go further, I'd like to share a short multi-bagger idea with you. And I'm sure all of you must be interested in that idea. Are you or are you not? So a short multi-bagger idea which cannot fail you. Any guesses? Bilkul, sahi. So there are intelligent people around and I'm talking to a lot of intelligent people here. India is the stock which you need to bet on. Don't miss this opportunity. We are going through the same time like what China was about, say, 20 years back, or Japan was at. I mean, the biggest wealth has been created when an economy has transitioned from a $3 to $5-6 trillion. And that is what we are in. We are at the same stage today. So India, which is a $3.7 trillion economy, will surely very soon become a $5 trillion economy. And our expectations are by 2030, we would see India growing to a $7 trillion economy. And if we are there for long term, sky is the limit. We would certainly reach a 20 trillion during our lifetimes and much beyond that. So that is what India is. So this is a short multi-bagger idea which you cannot fail. So one should invest, stay invested in Indian equities, Indian markets. The simplest or the easiest way to do that would be put your money in Nifty and that will take you through. Now, let me talk about what have we done over the last 10 years or so, which gives us confidence that whatever we have done, it's sufficient for us to take us to that $5 trillion economy. पिछले 10 साल में अगर देखेंगे तो the single most important reform which has been done is a GST, the implementation of goods and services tax. And as we all know, this has helped us quite a lot in आज government का tax collection बहुत बड़ा है. It's going at a run rate of 1.6 lakh crores. Tax compliance बड़ा है, tax evasion कम हुआ है, and there are lots of benefits which have occurred and GST has done quite a bit. Then the government has successfully implemented RERA in several parts. And what RERA has done again is it's clearly helped one of the biggest growth sector of our economy, the real estate sector. A lot of transparency has come. A lot of black money has been channelized into the formal economy. You know the regulations of RERA. I will not like to get into the details of that because I'm sure you all are already aware of it. But I'm just trying to tell you what have we done which has led, and what have we got out of it after having done this over the last 10 years? Where have we reached already? Then IBC, in my career spanning 25 years, I've never seen a period when banks do not have NPAs. Or rather, the NPAs which had been earlier provided by banks, they've been able to recover them. Just to give you a few examples, there are some big NPAs like the case of Bhushan Steel or an SR Oil. So IBC has been implemented and this has led to this, and now we have very healthy banks with us. Jan Dhan mission, which was introduced by the government, where we created world record of opening savings account. We were able to open more than 30 crore bank accounts, leading to financial inclusion of several people who were, say, categorized as lower middle class or poor people. So that is also worked. Then the UPI, or the digitization revolution which has taken place in India, is taking us places. UPI is a model which is being envied by a lot of other countries, and they want help from us to be able to implement that in their country. Then to boost manufacturing, the government had introduced PLI scheme, the production linked incentive scheme, and that has also played a major role in increasing the share of manufacturing in our GDP. And finally, I'd like to talk about the rural and urban housing program of the government under the Prime Minister's Awas Yojana. So that is again led to a good growth in our economy, leading to a growth in our GDP. And so these are the kind of things which the government has already done. And what have these reforms resulted in? I'll just flip you through this slide very fast. The mutual fund industry, which was in 2013 at 101 billion US dollars, in 2023 has grown to 507 billion US dollars. Meaning equity cult has also come into India. Meaning you must all be aware, during the last 3-4 years, the number of demat accounts which have been opened or which are there today have increased from close to 3-4 crores to today around 13 odd crores. So such is the kind of equity cult which has taken place, and it's just a tip of the iceberg. We are a country with 140 crore people and we only have around 12-13 crore demat accounts, and out of which I think only 50% would be active. So such is the kind of opportunity going ahead. We have come thus far, but then there is a lot which can be achieved. Corporate tax rate, which used to be at close to 33-34%, had come down to 22% in 2023, and which has led to a lot of investment in manufacturing, a lot of foreign companies coming into India. And so this has happened because of the corporate tax rate, which has been reduced by the government. The digital transactions as a percentage of GDP, which used to be a very small 4.4% in 2016, has now reached 76.1%, which is a remarkable achievement as far as digital transaction is concerned. I'll just like to share an example. आपके भी घरों में जो maids होते हैं, जो servants होते हैं, you talk to them. पहले like उनको गांव पैसा भेजना होता था, तो they used to pay 5-10% as transfer charges to these private people. और साथ लेके जा रहे हैं, बोले ट्रेन में किसी ने मतलब चुरा लिया या money got stolen. Abhi, it's become so easy, and you talk to any of them and they all know about Phone Pay, they all know about Paytm, they all know about Google Pay, and they do it very easily and very rapidly. It's being used very widely. So such is the kind of digitization which we've been able to achieve. FDI, which used to be at $22 billion in 2013, has come to $46 billion. GST collections. It started in 2018. The figure was $88 billion, and today we are at $220 billion of GST collection every year. It's a run rate of 1.6 lakh crores every month. So the government has been able to generate a lot of surplus funds for development projects by way of GST collection. Highways, which were at 25,700 kilometers in 2014, have now reached 54,000 kilometers. Railways have been electrified. It was only at 4,100 kilometers in 2014 and is now at around 28,100 kilometers in 2023. DBT has gone up several number of times from $1 billion to $32 billion over a period of only 7 years. Then corporate debt as a percentage of GDP has reduced, which is a good thing. We are at a comfortable 50% today, which used to be at 62%, and the credit would certainly go to the increment in the overall pie. Our GDP has grown, so that has also led to a reduction in corporate debt. Real estate projects, the new launches which we post the implementation of RERA has gone up from 50,000. It used to be at 50,000 in 2015. Today it is at 75,000. So such is the kind of progress which we have made so far because of the reforms which have been initiated over the last decade. Now, where do we stand today and why are we so convinced कि इतना confidence मुझे क्यों है या आपको भी या जो भी आज आप international investors से बात करो तो they are all very confident that India would certainly be a major economy in the years to come. We are certainly the fastest growing major economy in the world. What do we have which is taking us this far? Although the government is doing its bit, but you look at India, we have the youngest population in a major country. 50%, more than 50% of our population is below 30 years of age. And the world is grappling with skilled manpower today. So India could be the place to provide that manpower. We have skilled manpower. We are an English-speaking nation, which is again a big advantage for the Western world. We have a democracy, unlike China, which does not have, so that is also preferred. We have a proper legal system, which leads us to an advantageous position. Look at our savings rate also. We save, Indians have a tendency to save, we save 20% of our earnings. So these savings are getting channelized into productive investment, which will lead to humongous growth going forward. Then the government's focus on Make in India, the government's focus on research and development, technology, that is also an added advantage which we have. And now when we look at other countries, like who do we compare with when we talk about our country? Normally it would be China. But China has its own problems. Post-COVID, the world has understood China in the first place is not reliable. The world is looking at China +1 for most of their requirements, be it manufacturing, and manufacturing meaning everything. China was supposed to be the factory to the world, and now Western countries are looking at India or some other countries like Vietnam or Bangladesh or South Africa to source their requirements. But China, suddenly, people have lesser confidence in China today. Post-COVID, things have changed and they've changed for the better. Then China has its own problems as far as their real estate sector is concerned. That's what we are hearing every other day. We see Chinese government bailing out some real estate company. Then China has its problem of shadow banking, aging population. China's population is also aging. So these are the kind of problems which China is grappling with, whereas we are at a comfortable position. And so there's no reason why India would not attract foreign investor or foreign investment much more than what we've been able to do until now. Look at US, again, similar kind of problems. The population is aging. They have their own problems of inflation which is beyond their control. We are at a comfortable position today also. We used to be at 9-10%, say 5-7 years back, and today we are at a comfortable 6-7%. There also you have problems with their small banks. Some of them had been bankrupt recently and had been bought over by bigger banks. And the biggest problem with US is the leverage which they have. They are into printing of dollars, and which is leading the world to nowhere actually. So it's a big risk, and their leverage is their problem. So when we compare ourselves with China or a US, I think we are at a very comfortable position, and that's what is giving us, or giving outside world, the confidence to be in India. So these things can certainly take us to a $5 trillion economy, but the part which you all are waiting for, I'm sure, is the sectors which in my opinion look good when you look at an Indian economy transitioning from a $3 to $5 trillion to a $7 trillion economy. What are the sectors which could lead this transition? So I'll come to that. The first very important sector which comes to my mind when we talk about India's economy progressing towards that would be manufacturing. Today, the contribution of manufacturing to India's GDP is only about 23-24%. Around 55% comes from services. But in the years to come, I think manufacturing is one sector which is going to be the highlight, and the government is taking whatever it takes, or taking measures to ensure that manufacturing gets a boost. Like the PLI scheme which the government has introduced, like the corporate tax rate which has been brought down, that is again helping us. So within manufacturing also, there are certain pockets or certain sectors which are looking good. When you look at India, there is scope for tremendous opportunities there. The one sector which I like the most is the sector of electronics manufacturing in India. I always give this example whenever I talk about this anywhere. You must have heard about GE Capital coming to India way back in 1980s. They started with software services, and look at where we have come to. Today, India is the biggest provider of software services, IT services in the world. So we are doing really well. Similarly, in the 1990s, Suzuki was invited by India with Maruti to start an auto plant in India, to start their passenger vehicles. We used to have only Ambassadors and Fiats at that time. With the arrival of Suzuki, our auto sector has boomed, and we have done really well in our auto sector. And I'm telling you, Apple coming to India to manufacture their iPhones in India is the same moment for the entire electronics manufacturing industry. Apple had put in the first plant in Chennai, I suppose, and they are now putting up a second plant, or the second plant might have already started in Bengaluru. This is the moment for electronics manufacturing, and I'm sure most of you would be tracking stock markets, and we have several companies listed in the electronics manufacturing space which are doing a great job, and they're really growing at a very rapid pace. 4 or 5 IPOs had come over the last 1.5 years, catering to this space. So trust me, electronics manufacturing is one sector which looks good and which one should certainly look for investment in. Defense, again, government's focus on defense, make in India. We are seeing tremendous work going on as far as defense is concerned. We are surrounded by very hostile countries. So for us also we need that. Plus, India is now becoming a defense exporter too. And our policies with the kind of strong government which we have has helped us in bringing these big defense companies into India to get into manufacturing in India. It was not the case about 10, 15 years back. If we had to get into defense, or if we wanted to buy some defense equipments, we had to place an order to an international company. But the current government's focus on Make in India has really resulted in several defense companies doing really well in India. And I'm sure this sector would continue to grow, not only for our domestic requirement, but as a supplier to the world in the future. Like you must have all noticed, when our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji went to the US, GE wanted a contract, and they said you have to start manufacturing your engines in India in tie-up with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So this is the kind of focus which the current government has. So look at any other sector. Tesla wants to come to India, and India says you have to start manufacturing in India. You can't just export from Mexico, from US and sell it in India. You've got to start manufacturing in India. So this is the kind of approach which our government has, and which is leading us to become a factory to the world like China. Then railways, again, it's a sector to watch out for, although some of it has already played. The government last budget allocated around 2.4 lakh crores to railways, which is a big sum, and we are seeing the kind of performance which our railway companies are doing. And I think this sector is also, and there's tremendous opportunity, there's a lot which needs to be done. You travel abroad, and when you come back, you see there are a lot of opportunities. So manufacturing, and within manufacturing, these are the kind of sectors which would certainly do well. So one should need to have a look at it. Then banks and NBFCs, BFSI, a space without which we cannot reach this target of 5 trillion or a $7 trillion economy. Any economy which grows at the pace at which we are growing, banks and NBFCs would certainly play a very important role. You look at our savings rate, it's 20%, and we are a $3.7 trillion today. We plan to become a $5 trillion, which would mean our savings would be $1 trillion. So this is the kind of savings which would be deployed with banks. So banks would have great opportunity as far as our future is concerned. Credit offtake has been strong. We are doing whatever is required to ensure capex, both from the private sector as well as the public sector. So there's a huge opportunity for banks, and the one good thing is we do not have a world-sized bank which is comparable to the large-sized banks in the international or in developed world. Look at our banks. We have the largest bank in India is an HDFC Bank. It has a market cap of only around $150 billion. So these are the banks which would turn into a $500 billion bank or a $1 trillion bank in the years to come. So you don't have to look at sectors which you don't know. These are the sectors which would certainly make you money over the next, say, 5-10 years. So banks and NBFCs should be a sector which one should certainly keep in mind. That infrastructure, capital goods, again, we all know the kind of pace at which our roads and highways minister is working. The kind of infrastructure which is taking place, the development in the infrastructure space which is taking place. Like when you look at our own Mumbai, you see wherever you go, the roads are dug, the bridges are happening, metro is happening. Meaning, बोलते हैं ना जब when you call somebody from outside, तो बोलता है it's like आपको एक अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन घर में जैसे एक फ्लैट दे देते हैं रहने के लिए, वैसे ही मुंबई सिटी का हालत है. Meaning wherever you go, construction is going on, और आप रह रहे हो. So there are a lot of hardships, but then over the next say 3 to 5 years, hopefully things would improve. So a lot of work is going on infrastructure. We have a lot of highways, as I was pointing out in the other slides. We've come from 20,000 kilometers to 58,000 kilometers of national highways. Then I'd recently been to Aurangabad. On my way back, we were coming by road. So the Samruddhi Mahamarg, it's a fabulous project which the government has done. Then Delhi-Mumbai Expressway is being done. And most of the cities are doing metro projects right now. So a lot is being done in infrastructure, and not only in roads, railways, ports. So lots are being done. So I think this sector would continue to do well. Capital goods, which aids to manufacturing, which aids to infrastructure. This is a sector again which needs to be looked at. Power both renewable and non-renewable. Renewable, I'm extremely bullish on. Meaning it could be wind, it could be solar, it could be hydro. And there are very few companies which are in this space, and just identify some good companies from there, meaning look at their fundamentals, and I'm sure they would grow really big over the next 5 to 7 years. The government has clearly targeted to achieve 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030 from the current levels of 100 gigawatt. So this is a huge, huge opportunity for renewable energy. So renewable energy, it could be hydro, it could be wind, it could be solar, but then I think one should keep an eye on them. And even the conventional power producers, we are going to be requiring very huge amount of power in the years to come. So power is another sector which one needs to look at. Then electric vehicles again, the way the world is going towards electric vehicles, there is no way India can be left behind. So in the next 10 years, I feel at least 50% of the ICE vehicles would be converted into electric vehicles. So look for companies in this space, the OEMs, the companies which are providing infrastructure for electric vehicles. It could be charging infrastructure, it could be batteries, it could be auto components, it would be certainly OEMs getting into electric, and we've seen several stocks which are in this space which have done well because of their foray into electric vehicles. Green hydrogen again is a space which is a futuristic space, and I feel there are very few companies currently, but then it's a space which one should keep on radar and look for investment opportunities. So these are actually the kind of sectors which would take us further, and where if you invest today, you will participate in the growth of our economy. But there is a caveat. I've talked about all good things which can happen, but when you trade, if you are a very long-term investor, you shouldn't be worried about India. Come what may, we'll continue the growth process. It might get derailed for some time because of some events which I'll come to. But we'll certainly reach our destination. It might take longer if those things happen. So when I started, I said India is a short multi-bagger, but what is the stop loss? That also you must all be aware. Where do you keep your stop loss? If you are looking at India from the next, say, 1 to 2 years, then again, India is the stop loss, INDIA. God forbid, I'm not for any government, not against any government, but we want a stable, strong government again. That makes things clear. I would not like to get into the details, but the stop loss is INDIA again. So if you are a medium to short-term investor, then look for that. But even if that happens, we could get derailed for some time. It might take a bit longer. As I was telling you, I hope our economy would be a $7 trillion economy by 2030. We might have to wait until 2032, 33 to be able to do that. So this is one thing which needs to be kept in mind. There are several events which would come in our way. Now I'll talk about a little bit about my experience, how the markets could perform from here, which I'm sure you all would be interested in knowing. If we look at history over the past, say, 25, 30 years, we normally always have a good rally in the run-up to the elections. And this time is no different. Run-up to the general election I'm talking about, not the 5 state elections which are going to happen over the next month. So, be prepared for a roller coaster ride, because there are a lot of events which would have their impact on our markets. International events are always there. Fed might again hike interest rate. The bond yield could go up further. Dollar index could inch up. Israel-Hamas could escalate. So they are all there, which one needs to have an eye on if you are looking at India from a short-term to medium-term perspective. These events will have a bearing on our markets, which we've seen over the last 1 week also. Last 1 week has been really ruthless as far as small and mid caps were concerned. I'm sure most of you would have felt the heat, because what had happened was, ये जो COVID के बाद का time आया, in which young investors had come into the markets, they'd not seen such a sharp fall in their portfolios. So they had become a bit complacent, and that is what has pinched them more. क्योंकि देखा ही नहीं, even Russia Ukraine के time पे भी we did not see this kind of a brutal fall, जो इतने speed से हुआ कि 5 दिन में your portfolio, if you are in small and mid caps, you would have been down by 20-25%. So ऐसा time वापिस भी आएगा. Meaning supposing ये जो 5 states का election results आता है, God forbid अगर कुछ होता है, although I'll give you my personal opinion, heading into the results of these elections, we would already be prepared for the setback. And stock markets are very efficient. जो चीज़ सबको पता है वो होता है तो कुछ नहीं होता है बाजार में, कुछ नहीं होता है. आप पहले से अगर बता दो तो धीरे धीरे करके, नहीं तो bond yields in the US, they were at 0%. जब 0% थे तो our Nifty was at 8,000. दुनिया में यही बात हो रही थी कि when the US starts increasing its interest rates, the world markets would fall, India would fall. जब वो 1% हुआ तो we were at 11,000. जब वो 2% हुआ तो logically speaking तो गिरना चाहिए था, we were at 15,000. आज जब वो 5% है तो we are at 19,000, 20,000. तो when you are prepared for an event तो markets में ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं होता है. So if you want to look at the outcome of these elections from a point of view of a glass half empty or half full, we are all prepared for a setback. But if you get one positive, then the markets could smartly bounce back. So I'm in the other camp, because heading for elections, we would have already built into this bad news. That's my personal opinion. I've got every right to be wrong. So just do your own homework and research and try to look at the markets from that perspective. Baki, things are all looking good. Corporate results have been good. Our domestic factors are good. We've been able to control inflation. FIAs के जो outflows है उनको भी we are matching them. Our DIAs are flush with funds. We have 16 to 20,000 crores of SIP every month. So no such problem as far as that is concerned. But then जब retail investors हाथ खींचने लगेगा, then suddenly we will have a deeper correction this time. बाकी be optimistic, stay put, buy quality. What Mr. Nilesh Bhai, Navneet Bhai must have already told you. Okay, just one mantra which I would like to give you. There was a question from the audience to Nilesh Bhai. How do you find out companies to invest into? And then he gave you 3-4 things which he looks at. I have coined a very simple jargon or abbreviation which would help you remember what to look for. The jargon is a PDC. PDC would mean post-dated check. Now, how does this help you in remembering this? When you want to invest in a company, just try to filter these companies on this criteria first, which will make your task 80% simpler. P would stand for promoters. Look for companies where promoters have sizable holdings and they do not have substantial pledge. Little bit of pledge is always there, but if a promoter has pledged 100% of its holdings, tata bye-bye. Do not look at that. And further try to dig into, all our chartered accountants, I'm sure you will be able to research the annual reports and get to know what are those funds meant for. So they're pursuing them some personal ambition, say Tata, say no to those companies. So P would stand for promoters. So promoters and the promoters fire, meaning a lot of qualities related to promoters, but then the numerical thing which you should look at is उनका होल्डिंग कितना है, होल्डिंग जितना ज़्यादा उतना अच्छा, प्लेज जितना कम उतना अच्छा, नहीं हो तो बहुत ही अच्छा. Most of the companies which you find to be good long-term investments are the ones where promoters don't have any pledge. आप कोई भी IT companies में very rarely you'll find pledge होगा. So P stands for promoters. D, as you all can make out, D would stand for debt. Avoid companies with high levels of debt. It would certainly depend on industry to industry. जैसे आप बैंक का लेवरेज देखेंगे तो they are into the business of lending money. तो उनका debt तो ज़्यादा ही होना पड़ेगा ना. They borrow funds and then lend. The only thing which you need to look at while investing in banks is NPS क्या होता है. मतलब लेके दे किसको रहे. But in a manufacturing company, a comfortable debt level, which you all know, there are lots of ratios. The liquidity ratio or the current ratio or the repaying capacity, the EBITDA, what are they generating, what is the interest which they are earning, interest which they are liable to pay, and how would they be servicing their debt. So debt-ridden companies should be avoided. A company which does not have debt on its book cannot ever go bankrupt. A company which does not have debt on its books cannot ever go bankrupt. Even in times of COVID, companies with high debt had to lock down, had to wind up. So debt is another criteria which you need to look at. So high debt companies should be always avoided. And the third alphabet was C. C would mean corporate governance issues. Avoid companies which have corporate governance issues like intercompany transfers, or you normally get to know CFO resigning very often, CFO keeps changing, auditor keeps changing, or look at the annual report, dig into it, and you'll get to know. So a company with corporate governance issues should always be avoided. So if you are able to screen companies on these three parameters, 80% of your task is done. Then you can look for whatever. It's a session which I could talk about for 3 to 4 hours together. How do you identify good companies? Or what do I look at? How do you, rather than that, what do I look at when I plan to or try to invest in a company? So it's a session which could take longer, but then now I'd like to just conclude my talk with a saying which is the most important thing. Time in the market is better than timing the market. You've got to be long-term investors to be able to create wealth in this market. Give time to your investments. And do not ever try to time the market if you are an investor. अभी ये बाजार 6 दिन से गिरा. अगर आप मुझे परसों टीवी पे सुनते, I was very confident. I was very emphatic in my call that ये सेल का last day लग रहा है. One should go out and buy into small and mid caps because the kind of strength or recovery which the markets were showing, I'm talking about Thursday, when the markets were down by 250, 260 points, the expiry day. If people who would have seen me on TV at 2:30, I was very emphatic in saying that आज दिन है, आपके sale का last day है, आज खरीदो. And those of you who would have done it in the very short term would have made good amount of money. But then ठीक है, I was fortunate and God has been kind, so वो correct हो गया. But then it's these kind of times when you get good quality stocks at a price at which you want them. आज से 1 महीना पहले तक सबको रेलवेज, डिफेंस, सब स्टॉक्स को चेज करना था at levels which were 20-30% higher than the current levels. And today आप जब वो 20-30% correct हो गए तो you are waiting for them to come down further. Nobody has ever been able to predict the bottom or the top of the market. You can't ever buy at the bottom and sell at the top. It's not possible. Not possible for anybody. वो कहते रहे एक बार किसी ने बोला कि भगवान को सब कुछ मालूम है, तो कोई निफ्टी का ट्रेडर था, उसने मंदिर के बाहर लिख दिया भगवान को बोलो निफ्टी पे ट्रेड करेंगे. उनको भी पता नहीं कि क्या होने वाला. So time in the market, be a long-term investor, pick good quality companies, stay put, and I'm sure India is a short multi-bagger. Do not miss this opportunity and invest. That's it. Thank you so much for listening to me so patiently and carefully. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Sir, maybe if I can request you for 2 to 3 questions.
Yeah, sure.
So the mic is here. Any questions for Vikas ji? Here, udhar. Yeah, we'll come to you.
नमस्ते विकास जी. सर, हम आपको जब टीवी पे सुनते हैं आप काफ़ी अच्छी तरीके से फ़िल्टर कर पाते हैं लॉन्ग टर्म आइडियाज़ को और शॉर्ट टर्म आइडियाज़ को. आप काफ़ी अच्छे से फ़िल्टर कर पाते हैं लॉन्ग टर्म आइडियाज़ और शॉर्ट टर्म आइडियाज़ को. तो सर, हम काफ़ी बार कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं कि लॉन्ग टर्म प्रिंसिपल्स और शॉर्ट टर्म प्रिंसिपल्स को कैसे अलग रखा जाए और आपकी थॉट प्रोसेस कंटिन्यूसली स्ट्रेंथन होती जाए वो पर्सपेक्टिव से. तो सर, आप कुछ शेयर करना चाहें इस बात पे कि हम कैसे इस वाली मेंटालिटी को थोड़ा और स्ट्रॉन्ग कर पाएँ. थैंक यू फॉर आंसरिंग माय क्वेश्चन.
क्या नहीं, देखिए, जहाँ तक के लॉन्ग टर्म और शॉर्ट टर्म का प्रश्न उठता है, एक तो आप शॉर्ट टर्म भी जो करते हो उसमें भी चेक द फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ दैट कंपनी. ठीक है, चाहे वो शॉर्ट टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट है, आपके पास कोई मतलब आपको किसी ने बोला हो whom you trust और आप कर भी रहे हो, तो उसमें भी आई वुड एडवाइस कि लुक एट गुड क्वालिटी कंपनीज. बाकी आपको लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर्स जब आप होते हो तो एज लॉन्ग एज द कंपनी इज डूइंग गुड, मतलब अगर आप, नीलेश भाई बता रहे थे राकेश झुंझुनवाला जी ने पैसा बनाया, रमेश धमानी जी ने उतना नहीं बनाया. क्यों? एक तो कन्विक्शन के हिसाब से उन्होंने निवेश नहीं किया. दूसरा, आज राकेश झुंझुनवाला जी का मैक्सिमम वेल्थ बना है सम 2-3 स्टॉक्स में, टाइटन में. और टाइटन को आप अगर पिछले 10 साल में देखोगे तो वो पीक से 25% का डाउनसाइड तो बहुत बार हुआ है, उन्होंने बेचा नहीं. बिकॉज द कंपनी वॉज ग्रोइंग. He had confidence in the company, the management, दे विल कंटिन्यू। आप अल्टीमेटली सपोज आपको यहाँ से दिल्ली जाना है और आपने राजधानी का या एक शताब्दी का टिकट करवा लिया, ठीक है, आप सूरत स्टेशन पे पहुँचते हो, आगे सपोज लाइन क्लियर नहीं है, राजधानी वाली लाइन क्लियर नहीं है, स्टेशन में रोक दिया, बगल से फिरोजपुर जनता जा रही है, तो आप क्या राजधानी से उतर के फिरोजपुर जनता में चढ़ोगे? अगर चढ़ते भी हो तो अल्टीमेटली राजधानी ही आपको वहाँ पहले पहुँचाने वाली है, फिरोजपुर जनता नहीं पहुँचाएगी, क्यों? पहले क्लियर होगा तो राजधानी क्लियर होगी। तो आप जब लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हो और ये सोचते हो कि मैं किसी स्टॉक में टाइटन बेच के वापस ले लूँगा, वैसा कभी होता ही नहीं है, मतलब हम भी नहीं कर पाते। तो हम जब when we are also into trading and investment, like there could be people who only do long term investments, अच्छी बात है, आपको भी वही करना चाहिए अगर आपका फुल टाइम काम नहीं है। ट्रेडिंग इज़ अ फुल टाइम जॉब, ठीक है। बट जो ट्रेड भी करते हैं, इन्वेस्टमेंट भी करते हैं, लाइक वी डू, तो हमारा एक इन्वेस्टमेंट का पोर्टफोलियो स्टॉक को हम स्क्रीन पे ही नहीं लगाते, क्यों? अदरवाइज इट इज़ ऑलवेज टेम्पटिंग। सपोज मैंने सिरमा टेक्नोलॉजीज, आई जस्ट नेम अ फ्यू स्टॉक्स जो मैंने सपोज आइडेंटिफाई किया 100 रुपये के लेवल्स पे, अब वो 600 रुपये 500 रुपये तक मुझे रहेगा ही नहीं, अगर वो स्क्रीन पे रहेगा तो वो तो 150 होते ही मुझे भेज देंगे, वो हो जाएगी। सो वी डू इट दैट वे। जो लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर्स है, लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट है आपका, उनको आप अलग रखो, अनलेस समथिंग गोज रॉन्ग विद द कंपनी, अनलेस कोई गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी आ गई, कुछ ऐसा होता है जो होता है, तो आप निकलना है, ट्रैक तो उनको भी करना है, बाकी आप डोंट सेल योर गुड स्टॉक। और आमतौर पे एक जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है, जो लोगों का पोर्टफोलियो बनता है, दैट इज़ नेवर मेड आउट ऑफ चॉइस, ये गरज से बनता है। आपको मेरे को सुन के या मैंने बोल दिया कुछ स्टॉक आपने लिया, जिसमें प्रॉफिट होता है वो तो आप 10% पे बेच के निकल जाते हो, और जिसमें लॉस होता है उसमें खड़े ही रहते हो, और एंड ऑफ द ईयर जब बैलेंस शीट बनती है तो जितने लॉस वाले स्टॉक थे वो आपके पोर्टफोलियो में होते हैं। बनता कि नहीं? ऐसे ही बनता पोर्टफोलियो, चॉइस से बनता ही नहीं है। और आपका बिकता क्या है? जिसमें प्रॉफिट आज सपोज फॉल आ गया, कल आपका, अगर आप कुछ लोग यहाँ पे F&O ट्रेड करते होंगे, मार्क टू मार्केट लॉसेस आते हैं, क्या करते हो? पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे? ये तो आप प्रिपेयर्ड थे नहीं इतना बड़ा फॉल के लिए, तो आप क्या करते हो? आपको कल पे इन करना है तो आप माल बेचोगे। कौन सा माल बिकेगा? आपका कोई खराब लॉस वाला माल बेचने की ताकत ही नहीं होती ना, ह्यूमन नेचर है। आपका तो रिलायंस ही बिकेगा, आपका ITC बिकेगा, आपका HUL ही बिकना है उस टाइम पे। फिर अल्टीमेटली आपके पास एंड ऑफ द ईयर पोर्टफोलियो क्या रहने वाला है? कचरा रहने वाला है। दैट इज द मिस्टेक विच वी डू, एंड उससे ऊपर निकलना इज डिफिकल्ट, बट जो ये चीज समझ के निकल जाता है, दोज आर द पीपल हु मेक मनी इन दिस मार्केट।
Maybe two more questions. Yeah, yes, please.
Question over here.
Quickly, we coming to you after him.
सर आपने बोला कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस का इशू आता है तो स्टॉक्स लाइफ टाइम के लिए नहीं लेने चाहिए कि बाद में कभी देख सकते हो उसकी तरफ, और क्वालिटी ऑफ मैनेजमेंट कैसे चेक करें? और थर्ड क्वेश्चन, व्हाट इज योर स्टैंड ऑन टेलीकॉम सेक्टर, एंड डू यू फोर्थ क्वेश्चन, एंड डू यू लुक फॉर विच काइंड ऑफ डेटा पॉइंट्स डू यू लुक फॉर ट्रेडिंग?
फॉर
ट्रेडिंग आई मीन डू यू डू डेटा एनालिसिस फॉर ट्रेडिंग लाइक ओपन इंटरेस्ट और समथिंग?
देखिए, एक तो पहले मैं लास्ट क्वेश्चन का आंसर देता हूँ, वो याद है मुझे क्वेश्चन, बाकी मैं आपसे पूछूंगा आपका कौन कौन सा क्वेश्चन था, ठीक है। अभी ट्रेडिंग के लिए डेटा क्या देखता हूँ, तो मेरे को वो एक्सपर्टीज़ नहीं है, मतलब टेक्निकल्स में मैं इतना वो मेरा फोटे नहीं है। तो एक नैक भी है, मीनिंग आई बीन डूइंग दिस फॉर द लास्ट से 25 ईयर्स, तो वो एक नैक भी होता है। बाकी वी ऑलवेज लुक फॉर अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ इन द मार्केट। जैसे अभी इस तरह का फॉल है और आपको कोई स्टॉक है जो लग रहा है कि दिस इज अनवारंटेड, और जिसमें ऑलरेडी अच्छा कर रहा है, अच्छा बिजनेस है और अभी भी अच्छा है, जो भी, मतलब जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, सपोज आज इजराइल और हमास का वॉर हो रहा है, अगर आप उसको, अच्छा टू गिव यू अनदर एग्जांपल, जो मेरा एक बहुत, मुझे कई बार इसके लिए कॉम्प्लीमेंट मिले, वो मैं ऑन एयर भी मैंने शेयर किया हुआ है। जिस दिन ये उड़ीसा में ट्रेन ट्रेजेडी हुई, बड़ी, इट वाज अ वेरी ट्रेजिक एंड अनफॉर्चुनेट इंसिडेंट। वो दिन था फ्राइडे का दिन, आई रिमेंबर इट वॉज ऑन 2 जून. और 2 जून इसलिए भी याद है, अनिल सिंघवी जी का बर्थडे होता है उस दिन, ठीक है, और फ्राइडे था. मैं शाम को ये न्यूज़ सबको मिली. तो व्हेन दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स हैपन, वन शुड नॉट लुक एट देम फ्रॉम दिस पर्सपेक्टिव, बट ये सबको मालूम था कि एक मेजर एक्सीडेंट हुआ है. आप रेलवे सेफ्टी वाली कंपनीज पे फोकस करें. मतलब इन अ क्राइसिस ऑल्सो यू कुड लुक एट अपॉर्चुनिटीज. तो उस समय जो आपके रेलवे सेफ्टी में कौन सी कंपनीज है, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि मार्केट्स वर नॉट डूइंग ग्रेट, आज इजराइल हमास वॉर है, उसमें आपको ये आइडेंटिफाई करना होता है, या हमको भी सुनेंगे तो हम भी बतलाते हैं कि भाई इजराइल क्या चीज़ प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, दुनिया भर को सप्लाई करता है, जो हैम्पर होएगी इजराइल हमास वॉर से. चाइना से कोविड शुरू हुआ, चाइना में लॉकडाउन हो गया. जिस रीजन में चाइना में लॉकडाउन हुआ, वहाँ से चाइना क्या एक्सपोर्ट करता है, और वो कौन सी कंपनियां हैं जो इंडिया में थोड़ा मोड़ा काम वही करती है. चाइना का मुकाबला तो हम करते नहीं है, वो तो 70% ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स प्रोडक्शन इज डन देयर. बट आपके अगर जो भी डिस्ट्रिक्ट था, प्रोविंस था, वो आई डोंट रिमेंबर नाउ, वहाँ से APIs प्रोड्यूस होते थे दुनिया भर के लिए. तो उस समय आपको फटाफट देखना पड़ेगा कि इंडिया में API वाली कंपनी कौन है. डिवीज लैब है, लीडर है, तो उसमें पैसा बनेगा. तो इरेस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द मार्केट आपको अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिलती है. आप रेलवे सेफ्टी उस दिन देखेंगे तो HBL पावर स्टॉक था, जो अब जैसे मैंने सोचा वैसे कई और लोगों ने सोचा. वो फ्राइडे का दिन था, मंडे सुबह वो जो फ्राइडे को 110 को बंद हुआ, वो 121 का भाव खुला सुबह. बट इवन एट 121 आई वॉज ऑन एयर, आई हैड रिकमेंडेड दिस स्टॉक टू बी बॉट. आज वो देखिए, अभी 2 जून से अभी सितंबर हुआ है, इट वेंट अप टू 300 प्लस. तो ऐसे एक्चुअली मार्केट में पैसा बनाने के लिए आप चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स हो, आप ज़्यादा फाइनेंशियल्स पे फोकस करते हो, दैट इज गुड टू, बट कॉमन सेंस, कीप योर आइज ओपन, कीप रीडिंग, वो जरूरी है. आप शॉपिंग करने जाते हो, कौन सा प्रोडक्ट आया है, वो अच्छा चल रहा है. रोड पे जाते हो, कौन सी गाड़ियाँ बिक रही है, दैट गिव्स यू एन आइडिया अबाउट हाउ द कंपनी इज डूइंग. चलिए.
So I think the other two part of the question, but maybe
what
we
was
can-
it?
One was corporate governance. अगर problem हुआ तो वो company छोड़ देने का, क्या बाद में
हाँ,
consider
बिल्कुल
करना?
निकल जाना, बिल्कुल निकल जाना. कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस डिटेक्ट हो गया, अगर किसी कंपनी में कोई इस तरह का प्रॉब्लम हो गया, तो ये जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर, फाइनेंशियल्स खराब होके अच्छा हो सकता है. अगर आप लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर हो, देर आर टाइम्स, लाइक सपोज आप कोई मेटल कंपनी में इन्वेस्टेड हो, कोई शुगर कंपनी में इन्वेस्टेड हो, तो जब गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी चेंज होती है या साइकिल का डाउनटर्न होता है, तो द फाइनेंशियल्स कुड गो रॉन्ग. बट वो फिर साइकिल इंप्रूव होता है, तो वो वैसे ही पैसा भी बनाते हैं. आपका कन्विक्शन होता है, आप नीचे में एवरेज कर लेते हो, तो दैट्स द शॉर्ट वेट ऑफ मेकिंग मनी. बट जिसमें कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस का इश्यूज आ जाता है, वहाँ तो फिर नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग ही आपको निकल जाना चाहिए.
Next, the last one, third, please.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. And it's a pleasure to see a stock market celebrity right here with us. And sir, I have a question. It's a two-parter. One part is कि हम अक्सर ये सुनते हैं कि फाइनेंशियल डिसिप्लिन या ट्रेडिंग डिसिप्लिन होना चाहिए हम सब में. बट हम स्टॉक एंटर तो कर जाते हैं, शायद कहीं महंगा भाव मिल जाता है, हमें लगता है सस्ता मिला है, लेकिन एग्जिट करते टाइम हम अक्सर चूक जाते हैं, मे बी एट अ बेटर प्रॉफिट और समटाइम्स एट अ लॉस. तो उसके लिए हम क्या ध्यान में रखें आपके हिसाब से कि व्हाट इज, आई मीन आई एम श्योर इट्स अ सब्जेक्टिव मैटर, बट एक थंब रूल जो आपने अपने एक्सपीरियंस से देखा हो कि हमें गाइडेंस मिले कि व्हेन शुड वी एग्जिट अ स्टॉक, कि हम अपना प्रॉफिट बुक करें, अपना लॉस को कम करें. एंड द सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ माय क्वेश्चन इज सर कि जनरली आप जैसे आप कहते हैं यू हैव अ नैक एंड यू आल्सो गो थ्रू अ लॉट ऑफ डेटा. अक्सर हम लोग मैक्सिमम इधर मनी कंट्रोल पे हम लोग के अकाउंट्स हैं, बट वहाँ भी हमें एक एक स्टॉक सर्च करना है. तो इज देयर एनी काइंड ऑफ डेटा बेस विच यू रेफर एंड यू कैन हेल्प अस कि भाई जहाँ हमें एक साथ कुछ डेटा मिल जाए वेर वी कैन फिल्टर इट आउट ऑन आवर ओन.
या मिस्टर खन्ना,
मिस्टर खुराना सर.
मिस्टर खुराना, सॉरी, आई नो हिम पर्सनली. अच्छा, नहीं, आपने पूछा, एक तो एग्जिट कब करना चाहिए वो तो आज 25 साल से करते हुए अभी भी मैं सीख रहा हूँ कब एग्जिट करना है। ये इट्स नॉट एन ईजी थिंग। तो वो आपका एक तो खुद का गोल होता है, लाइक व्हेन यू हैव इन्वेस्टेड इन अ स्टॉक फ्रॉम अ से शॉर्ट टर्म पर्सपेक्टिव, फिर आपने अगर आपका टारगेट था 20-25% बनने का तो वो तो एक तरीका हुआ। बाकी लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर्स को तो जैसे मैंने बोला कि स्टॉक को आप अगर जब तक कंपनी में कोई दिक्कत नहीं आती एंड इट्स ग्रोइंग एट अ फास्टर पेस देन द ऑल्टरनेट अपॉर्चुनिटीज विच यू हैव, मतलब कैपिटल इज ऑलवेज लिमिटेड। मतलब आप सपोज कोई कंपनी अच्छा करे, अभी कोई TCS या इन्फोसिस वगैरह में इन्वेस्टेड है, कंपनियां खराब नहीं है, बट अगर आप 2 साल से उनमें इन्वेस्टेड है तो आपने कुछ बनाया ही नहीं। आपने ना HDFC बैंक में बनाया ना ICICI बैंक में बनाया, नहीं बनाया, जबकि दे आर द बेस्ट कंपनीज इन द कंट्री, रिलायंस में भी नहीं बनाया। तो वो लिमिटेड कैपिटल है आपके पास, बट एज लॉन्ग एज वो कंपनीज आर ग्रोइंग, सेक्टर लुक्स गुड, यू डोंट गेट आउट ऑफ दम, यू कंटिन्यू। अगर आपका 10 साल का इन्वेस्टमेंट है तो आज भी कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। आई कॉल दम समटाइम्स दे आर लाइक बम्बू स्टॉक्स। जो बम्बू का पेड़ होता है ना, 5 साल कुछ नहीं करता, फिर 1 साल में आपको 50 फीट ऊपर चला जाता है। 1 साल आप देखोगे जमीन पे आया ही नहीं और 50 फीट ऊपर आ गया अगले साल। तो वैसे ही ये स्टॉक है, ITC के साथ ऐसा ही हुआ। मतलब 2-3 साल पहले तक इट वॉज अ रैंक अंडर परफॉर्मर, बट अभी जब बाजार चला तो बाकी बाजार खराब हुआ तो बाकी सब घटे, बट ITC डिड वेल। तो आपको बेचना कब है वुड डिपेंड ऑन योर पर्सपेक्टिव, वेदर यू आर इन्वेस्टेड फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म और शॉर्ट टर्म और डूइंग ट्रेडिंग। अगर लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर हो, एज लॉन्ग एज द कंपनी इज डूइंग वेल, ग्रोइंग, द प्रोमोटर्स आर एग्रेसिव, वो एक बड़ा क्राइटेरिया है विच वी लुक एट, कि प्रोमोटर्स में फायर नहीं है, जैसे चल रहा है वैसे चल रहा है, तो दैट कैन नॉट बी अ मल्टीबैगर। वो फिर शांति से आपको एक कंसिस्टेंट रिटर्न मिलता रहेगा, बट यू आर नॉट देयर इन द मार्केट टू डू दैट। तो वो होता है। बाकी जहाँ तक डेटाबेस का सवाल है, डेटाबेस का मनी कंट्रोल जो फ्री मिलता है वो तो सब कुछ होता है उसमें। लेट मी टेल यू, आप उसकी साइट को स्टडी करने के लिए एक दिन स्पेंड करो कि कहाँ कहाँ पे क्या क्या चीज़ है, सब कुछ होता है। बाकी पेड अगर आपको देखना हो तो स्क्रीनर इज़ गुड, फिर ट्रेंड लाइन है, जहाँ पे एक ही जगह पे आपको सब इन्फॉर्मेशन और इन्फॉर्मेशन अपडेट भी होते हैं। जैसे अभी हर क्वार्टर पे कंपनीज के रिजल्ट्स आते हैं तो वो रिजल्ट्स अपडेट होते हैं, सब कुछ होता है। तो स्क्रीनर इज़ वन डेटाबेस विच वी यूज़ इन आवर ऑफिस, बट वी हैव ट्रेंड लाइन ऑल्सो, वी हैव मनी कंट्रोल ऑल्सो, वो सब कुछ ही करते हैं। तो दैट इज़ वॉट आई वुड सजेस्ट, बट मनी कंट्रोल इज़ गुड इनफ, मतलब उसमें रहता ही है सब।
Thank you, sir. Before I give the formal vote of thanks, I'll less than 1 minute. We will try to finish our lunch in 45 minutes. I think more than half of them are already finished their lunch, so it should not be trouble. If someone has missed out on your dongle, you can collect it from here. We got it from the audience there. Now, quickly, sir, really, last 1 hour has been excellent. The various industries you talked about to be looking out for, manufacturing, consumer electronics to bank, and I think bank you said like they will go much higher if we compare them with the World Bank, the capitalization, etc. The fintech companies, infra, energy, renewable, EVs. So there is so many which we need to look at. We'll keep an eye, and from those industries, then we'll select which are the organizations depending on your PDC again. Look at the promoters. I think look at the dates of the organization, and then if there are corporate governance issues, I think we should stay away from there. So really an excellent session. I have summarized in less than a minute, but thank you very much. Thanks.
It's my pleasure.
Huge round of applause from me.